Hey guys, Brewski here. Today we are going to show you how I built the Tyranid Psychophage out of the Ultimate Starter Set. First model down, and this was surprisingly simple. A couple things to watch out for, but really not too bad of a kit. Stay tuned and I'll walk you through it. Okay, so getting going here, you're going to need the big oval base, and it's just the one frame. Initially I thought there would be more legs or more appendages to put on this, but surprisingly there weren't. So start cutting out your main body. These two halves are going to go together. Be very careful with this. There are a lot of pegs on the inside, and these are made to be snap fit. You can definitely glue them, and I do, just because I don't want to live through the pain in the butt of these separating at some point after I've painted the models. Most of the attachment points on the frame or the sprue are pretty straightforward. A couple of them are a little tricky to get at. If in doubt, just give yourself a little more space. And watch out, because several of these have pegs that actually slot into the bottom of the base. The front right side has one of these. The other part you're going to need here is the tongue. Be careful with this because it's a little fiddly, spindly bit. And once we get those out, we're just going to, as usual, take off the flash. I'm just using a dull X-Acto here. That will get rid of most of this pretty easily. If you left yourself a little bit extra, just go in with the nippers, like you saw me do there. This is really the only part where you have to be careful with what you're filing or what you're trimming down, because these halves do go together pretty snugly. So you just want to make sure that any flash is not going in between where the models are going to join. The rest of it is easily covered over. It's not too hard to get at. And be careful with the tongue. It is really bendy. This is the type of part, if you go at it wrong, it will snap or it will break. You just want to be aware of that. Once the two halves are cleaned up, go ahead and test fit. I'm just making sure at this point that there's no flash or nothing in between the parts actually getting together. I'm not putting these together yet. Number one, because like I said, I want to glue them. Number two, the tongue's got to go in. The tongue fits in. It's kind of precarious, but it goes in the right half of the body. And there's one hole that there's a little peg on the tongue piece goes into, and there's a little indentation for a ball joint just towards the front. You can't really see it too well, but it fits into the two of those. It's not meant to move. So if you're going to glue it, go ahead and glue it in that way. Using a little bit of my Tamiya limonene here. If you haven't seen that before, it's a citrus-based plastic glue. I got this because it does not have the fumes of the other thin glue, and it works just as well. It bonds just as well, but you don't smell like you're about to set your room on fire. And once the tongue's in, you can glue these two halves together. I do recommend glue again, just because there are a lot of seams, there are a lot of join points, and you can go over those with green stuff later. Paint will cover them up fairly well. You can't totally see them, but decent fit. I was not expecting this to go together this well for a push fit kit. Now, all we have left at this point are the legs. There's 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and these again can be a little bit fiddly. The hind legs are the biggest, the front legs or limbs are the smallest. And do be careful, because a couple of these again have the pegs to fit into the base. and you don't want to cut those off. I do get rid of one. I'll show you that when I get to it. But otherwise, same deal. Cut out your, I recommend the left-hand set of legs first. I'm just following the instructions on this one. But just cut those out, trim it down the flash, and I'll let you know what to do when we get to the assembly. On some of the flimsier parts, especially where the flat little basing part goes, there's a little bit of flash there. Do not be afraid to file that off instead of using your X-Acto. The parts bend relatively easily, and if those don't sit well, it's not gonna, the model's not gonna sit flush on the base as well. Not a huge problem with plastic, but still. Now, when it comes to gluing these in, except for the front small limb, and even they have some degree of placement, these all have a couple of grooves. They have basically a small peg, and they have a couple of grooves that only fit one way, so you can really feel out when you test fit this where the limb is supposed to go. And it's going to look a little weird. You might think the bug body is supposed to be perpendicular. No, the rear end is a little bit lifted off the ground, and the face and the tendrils are more level. You can see it does kind of make a level there. Now, I'm going to warn you guys about this piece, and you'll see this as I try putting this in. The small forelimbs don't really have an exact position. They just want to kind of free rotate in the socket. So I'm still gluing it, but I'm leaving it a little bit loose because the 3 pegs that actually fit into the base are already on the model just with the left set of legs. There's one you can see on the rear. The forelimb there that I just put on has a peg, and on the right hand side of the tendrils there's another peg that goes into the base. You can see where these are kind of going. I'll put that in a little better focus here. Now, I tried this for a couple of minutes and I can get the rear and the front pegs in, but this middle one really did not want to go. I was starting to bend the limb, and after a couple tries I actually cut this off. It really does not hurt the Mini because you can just put glue on the bottom of it. It's a flat little section of, it's like a little piece of scenery. It just fits flat on the base except for the peg, and it really does not kill the stability if you cut that off. So if you're having trouble like I did, or it doesn't seem to go, don't force it. Just cut the peg off the bottom piece, just like this. So that's flat, and the whole thing will go in, and you can just glue it down that way. Fits absolutely fine. Then it's onto the other set of legs, exactly the same way as we were doing. Same process. These do not have pegs, so they're just basically going in. One leg does have a flat piece of terrain. This is just meant to sit flat on the base. It does not have a peg. Again, feel free to get out your file on this if you don't want to be too rough with it, but it is the big leg. It's a lot sturdier. Just something to be aware of. The foreleg on this one is really spindly, so again, be very careful with that. This middle leg is not too bad. The foreleg is just very, very thin. It'll bend really, really easily. Be careful with your trimming on this one. Now, here's another little problem I noticed. In this case, the middle leg wants to actually go over the foreleg. And I just realized that from the positioning of it. In this case, what you actually want to do is put this one in last. You can put the hind leg in, the big leg in first. That'll give you more support. Put the foreleg in first because you see it just goes under that leg. It's just kind of hard to get that way, hard to fit in properly if you do it in reverse order. So put the small guy in, the foreleg in first, then put in your middle leg. Be a lot easier. At this point, just check the fit, make sure all your legs actually fit flush, and the glue you have will do the rest. Very simple model. I was really surprised it was in this few pieces, but it goes together absolutely great. And it looks terrifying. Once I paint this up, it'll be even better, but I really like the look of this model. It's got a very Tyranid all-consuming feel to it. And that's the build. This has been helpful. Please leave a like, leave any comments if you have other feedback, subscribe to see more videos, and I'll catch you on the next one.